I think that a lot of people are still in this like mode of fear and wanting to stop what's about to be released. Well, AI's out of the bag. AI, there's no way we can stop the AI development. There's no way that we can restrict what's going to happen.
Welcome to the Leader's Mindset, where we bring you conversations with leaders who are making an impact in business and our communities. Today I'm here with Ian Kellett. He's the CEO of IDify. If that company name sounds familiar to you, we had IDify founder Linda Nicole on a few weeks ago. Ian has also been kind enough to bring us his perspective as the CEO of an AI tech startup today. Thanks for being here, Ian.
I'm really excited to chat with you. Thank you so much for having me on.
It's my pleasure. When Linda and I first started talking, she started telling me about how you and how great you were and how much of a help you've been to her getting IDify off the ground and really where it is today. I couldn't wait to talk to you either. So refresh us, because it's been a few weeks since our viewers heard about this. We talk about a lot of startups on this podcast. Refresh us what IDify is, who it's intended to help, and how does it help them?
IDify is your digital like insurance service for your identity online. That's how I describe it to people. I'm going to talk a little bit about what our tech products are, just because that helps, I guess, piece it apart a little bit. First, what we do is we do a digital scan of someone's face where we map their face, get their facial vector. That along with different identity data, we encrypt and then attach a hash of that to the blockchain through making a NFT ID of them. And, this ID says, this person's a real human, their iris looks like this, and this is all the information about them. None of that stuff is stored on the blockchain. That's all stored securely, but there's a hash reference, so you can basically prove all those things without providing any proof. A good way of describing that is if you wanted to log in and buy alcohol online, you could use this NFT ID to prove that you're over 21 without ever showing your birthday, without showing your face, without showing anything, saying, hey, this is a real human, this is their identity, this is who's buying this, and they're over 21. So you don't have to share that personal data with people.
So that just to make sure I understand it, you're not, in your example, you're not giving the liquor seller your date of birth. You're a trusted agent to the liquor seller, and you give them a green light or a green check mark, and they say, well, IDify, we trust you. If you say they're 21, we believe they're 21.
Yeah, and it's all secured and it's all automatic, so it's very, very, it's near impossible to fake it. It's much more secure than sending a photo of your ID, because it has all that facial mapping data. It has all this other information that's included with it. As soon as it's proven and as soon as it's attached to the blockchain, it's a smart contract. It just happens. And we don't have to be a part of it. All it is basically them pinging our API and it says, yes, this person is over 21. This person's face does match the image that they just uploaded. The image that they uploaded is them, if that makes sense.
Absolutely. So instead of shooting sensitive data all over the internet to get things done like we do now, you're building yourself up as a trusted source where people can trust you and say, if Ian and Linda at IDify say it's good, it's good.
Yeah, that's exactly it. We are trying to establish the blue check mark of what is a human and who is a human online. And this NFT ID is that, blue check mark of, this is a real person. I don't know if I want to use blue check mark because now it's all becoming a paid service, but that's kind of the idea. So that's our first product, the NFT ID. From there, we're creating an AI, scanning software that scrapes across the internet and finds all the instances of facial matches to that NFT ID. So if you have your NFT ID, you can use our service to scan across the web, and it'll pull up every instance across the websites, advertising, social media of your face. This is pretty much developed now. We're just in the fine-tuning phases, which anybody that's aware of AI development, there's a lot of fine-tuning, a lot of reworking. But yeah, so once we pull up all those uses, we have a machine learning algorithm that we call it like the risk factor, that'll pull up the instances that we consider the highest risk. So say, you know, this face is being used for like OnlyFans, and you know, it doesn't look like it's actually you. Well, you know, Jason, I don't know if you want to have a OnlyFans career, but maybe, you know, there's an AI version of that.
I'm okay with having an OnlyFans career. I'm not sure the rest of the world wants to see that. So,
but yeah, so that's the scanning service, and we do whatever possible when possible to automatically remove it when it's an illegal use of your identity online. You know, and in the future, we already see instances where like Facebook in January was sued by an individual that Facebook was advertising their AI services to that individual using their own face. So we're already seeing like instances that are a little weird as far as the stuff going on, and it's just going to increase as the software and the products get more distributed that allow people to create, you know, AI digital twins of different people.
Yeah, what I love about this is to go back to pulling the thread on trust and bringing trust back to a part of our lives that doesn't have a lot of trust right now. What I love about this is, so not only do your clients trust you, the vendors who use you, all that kind of stuff, but now you're setting up a system where I, as a random person seeing something on the internet, can now see an image of someone and trust that it's actually them.
Yeah.
And they can trust that their image is being used by the people they've trusted their image to be used by, and not by others. And so the tech is all fascinating. I know it's very challenging. I know it's very sexy tech. But to me, it all comes back to this idea of trust, is that we're reestablishing trust. And I think we're all going to feel a lot better when we've all got IDify accounts, and we're all able to know if there's an image of me online, it's really me. And somebody's going to tell me, whether it's you guys at IDify or someone who sees it and says, hey, I saw this and I didn't think it was you. Is this really you, right? I think we're headed in such a positive direction.
Yeah, I'm just, you really hit the core, the heart of what our company is there. I really see a future where the internet will be filled with individuals and images and content that is not created by humans, not written, images that are both not of humans and are fake video of humans. I don't know how much you've been out there, but there's been so many AI fake videos of Trump that go around. I see a new one every single day. And that's the future that we're headed in. And I think that what people don't realize is we're moving into a future where you really won't know what's real online. You won't know if there was a human behind something, if this was an approved message. You won't know if the image that you see that seems perfectly real, the video that you see that seems perfectly real, is real. And we need to find a way and figure a way to bring that trust and humanness back to the internet. And, you know, people have gotten excited about like Web3 and blockchain AI, stuff like that. I think really all that stuff is just the stuff that should happen in the background. What we need is a real human experience and being able to preserve a real human experience online. That's what I'm trying to continue.
Yeah, and what I love about what you're doing is because a lot of things get talked about how to solve this problem from, this could be a complete free for all because of freedom of speech, all the way to there should be a complete ban of no one should ever be able to do anything that's not right. Neither of those are what we want, right? What you're enabling at IDify is if you want to have really tight controls over your image, that's something you can do. If you want to license your image out to every AI creator out there who wants to use your image, you can also do that with your technology, right?
Yeah. So that's the last product is the licensing, the AI digital twin marketplace. Once we have that facial scan, that vector, our system, with your permission, will allow you to receive proposals for advertisers to use your likeness to advertise their product. If they are interested in using your face, interested in using your identity, you'll receive an email. It'll give you the script. It'll give you all the information of what what you're going to be representing. And you can say, yes, I want to do this. No, I don't want to do this. And then your AI digital clone does that ad, and you receive the funds for doing it.
I love the balance of protection of your identity with the ability to take advantage of opportunity as well.
Yeah, to talk about that, I think that it's necessary. I don't think that it's necessarily intrinsically obvious, but we can't just protect people's identities without building the backbone and the structure of how to do this right. In building a service that allows people to use real identities and do this in a legal way that helps people, that provides income to people, then instead of removing all these people's jobs, instead of harming all these people, we're moving us into an AI digital age that you can earn income passively just on who your identity is, who your friends are, and if it was me, I'd only say yes to the things that I really believe in. That's, if I'm going to represent something, I'm going to represent the things that I really believe in. And, especially if I'm using my face for that.
Yeah. And you at IDify are making that all possible for all of us, which is great. So how did you get connected with IDify in the first place? And what does it have to do with Dungeons and Dragons?
Wow. Now, having to do with Dungeons and Dragons, I don't know if it even does. Linda probably doesn't even know that I'm into D&D, but that's another story. The D&D thing was I just wrapped up being cast and a co-producer on a D&D show that is still in post-production. I had finished that, and Linda approached me. We had a few meetings, and I was gearing up for possibly doing another reality TV show that's more of a travel style show. A lot of my other content is travel related, and I was talking to her about that, talking about representation. She was catching up with me. We both have ran businesses separately that orbited each other. We knew of each other. My employees had done videos with her. We had hired her talent for some international commercials. I do a lot of stuff in nerd culture. We did some Comic-Con commercials, and we casted some of her cast for that. So we had known of each other for a while, and she approached me and she pitched me this idea, and it was still kind of in the early phases, and I knew that there was a lot of potential there because I was already in a state of existential fear of where the internet's going. I was already really tapped into what you could do with AI. I was already tapped into what's happening with AI, and I knew that we were headed in a direction that soon everything that's getting created We won't know if it's a human, if it's a real person, if this influencer is a real influencer. I knew that was where we headed, and she initially sent the idea to me, and we talked about it a little bit, and I thought it was a good idea. I thought it was really interesting, and then she mentioned that she had gotten some big investor interest on it, so I needed to sit down and take it a little bit more seriously. So like I think it was literally in a night, maybe like 36 hours I spent on it. I wrote, kind of what I'd expect the financial projections to be. I wrote a basic business plan and tried to vet if I thought that it was worth doing. I figured I'd put a little bit of time into it and look at what the possible and what the potentials are for a business before I said yes, before I committed to it. And then when I realized, hey, I think that there's a lot of potential with this, a lot more potential than some of my other companies. I have a real estate company. I have, a video production company that does advertising, stuff like that. And then, of course, I direct some documentaries for like PBS and obvious TV shows. So I have a lot of stuff going on. If I were to do this, all that needs to get put into the back burner, and this needs to be my focus. There's a lot of sacrifice there, and I need to make sure that this has the prospects and the potential to be worth that. I put in all that time and came back, and I've never had a business that I think is both as necessary and as essential, or with as good prospects for potential revenue.
Yeah, one of the things we talk a lot about on this show is when people go into business for themselves, especially in the tech world, they think they're getting the freedom of not working for a boss, and then you realize very quickly you're spending 36 hours straight working on your business plan. You're spending 80 or 90 hours a week to not work 40 hours a week for somebody else. I want to pull back on the D&D thing just real quick, because when we talked before, I don't remember if it was one of your clients or a creator or someone who does Dungeons and Dragons content. They were losing out on revenue, or something was happening where they were getting duplicated. I don't remember exactly the story, but that's why this became kind of personal to you in the beginning, right?
Yeah, that had happened just shortly before that. You were absolutely you remember my history better than me. Wow.
That's why I remember our pre-interview calls.
That did happen shortly before I the meeting, and this was introduced to me. I had a friend that's a fairly large influencer in the D&D community, and she has a pretty big following. She does a lot of advertising. She makes all of her revenue through people advertising with her, and her talking about products. And one of the businesses that worked with her I think they paid for a product placement, and she talked about, hey, this is yada yada, this is what this D&D edition is. It wasn't an official D&D. It was like an add-on package. They took that, and then they took her face and started advertising with her visual identity online. And it wasn't even the first time that happened. It's pretty frequent, I think, for influencers to have issues with us, because not everybody that you're working with knows, hey, you can't just take somebody's video and use it as an advertisement. Even if you it's your product, it's their content. You're not allowed to do that. That's something that, they have a totally different fee structure for. So I don't think that that's necessarily our initial market or our total market. I think that might be the first people that start using our service, is to remove instances of advertising. So, but I don't think that that's our total market. I think really when you get into like the people that are going to need IDify, it's not just influencers. It's anybody that's a public figure that has a public identity that, you know, is making their money off of who they are, need to protect their identity online. You know, and anything from a public, you know, a political figure, you know, podcasters, influencers, you know, anybody, any public speakers, anybody that's making the money off their identity really is going to need to protect that in the future.
Yeah, I think after I got to know you and Lena, I knew this was kind of a problem, but didn't realize the extent of the problem as it is today. And then when you start talking about AI generated content and where a lot of social media platforms are starting to talk about, you know what? Our platforms are just going to start generating a lot of AI content because you guys will consume it.
Yeah.
The challenge for all of us, whether we are in the public eye or not, if our images are out on the internet somewhere, kind of right now the rules are they're fair game, right? For AIs to train on and then create AI generated content. So I think you're right. I think your total market is not, and then not just people in the public eye who make money off of being in the public eye, but it's really going to be all of us in the future, so that we can know if AI is using our likeness to generate content. We talked a lot about building trust, bringing trust back into this space. How that's a really important value. It's important to you and Linda. It's important to me as well. What other values are you building IDify and the company on?
I think the concept that this needs to support humans, you know, that the money of these AI generated digital twins needs to go back to people is really important to me. You know, and working with SAG, pretty soon there's all those extras that are in films. You know, the times that you have to fill, you know, a street of people and you pay each one of them $200 to be there for the night so that you can fill that individual. All those people can be generated now easily. You know, that's thousands of dollars that you can just generate away. Well, that's also thousands of dollars that aren't going to real humans. That's, you know, people that aren't going to have work in the future. And it doesn't make sense that, you know, an AI digital twin is going to make the same amount as a real actor that actually has to show up at a real location. But I think that it's important that we set up a system that real humans can get some of that money and can still support themselves, and, you know, that we're not entering into a future that everything's fake and everything that's getting created is being monopolized by a few companies that control all of this. I think that a lot of people are still in this like mode of fear and wanting to stop what's about to be released. Well, AI's out of the bag. AI, there's no way we can stop the AI development. There's no way that we can restrict what's going to happen. I have on my computer that's sitting next to me right here, I have a number of different AI generation tools that I could, you know, off one of your YouTube videos, I can make an AI twin of you that is pretty indistinguishable. People that know what to look for could tell at the moment. In the future, that's probably not going to be the case. If I get, you know, a few different photos of people, if I have 12 good photos, I can make a pretty good, you know, Laura that I can generate as many images of them as I want. I made one of myself and had my wife and kids generate random images of me. They were really embarrassing, so I won't share those. But and those are on my computer. I could send them to other people. They're out there. They're open source. You can't just put that back in the bag. It's already out. It's out, and it's small enough that there's so much room for development that it's not going to slow down. It's out of the bag. And even if you try to shut down all the big labs, it's going to keep progressing. So we need to build a system that supports people and supports humans. And, that trust is a really important factor of it. And also, like, authorship and knowing and understanding who's a real author of something is important. If something's made by a human, what we can do is we can make that thing an NFT on our blockchain and attach it to the NFT ID as the author. So if you make a film, you can make that film into an NFT, and then that film that's an NFT has every single credit that is linked to a real human in an NFT ID. So right there, you have proof that real humans made this. And I think there's value in that.
I think there's a ton of value in that. One of the questions that comes to mind, it wasn't one of my prepared questions, but what safeguards are you putting in place to make sure you're protecting your clients and customers?
Yeah, that is truly my number one concern. There is really, really important, vital data that people are entrusting us with. And once we receive that data, we encrypt it, and then we store it offline. If we have to come back and we have to prove something, then we can de-encrypt it. But that's what we're doing at the moment. As we go into the future, one of our board members is a cybersecurity expert. All of our, the people that I think this is important. I'm going to take a detour. I think that it's important to approach the world knowing that there's somebody better at everything than you. So anytime that you can bring in people that are smarter than you, that are better than you, that have the experience to take you to that next level, it's not like a weakness. It's not that you lack the ability to do that. It's a strength to have the connections in the network to bring those people in and make yourself better. And that's how I look at a lot of the cybersecurity stuff. I know that it's a weakness and something that I don't know and I don't understand, but I sure as heck know that if I'm bringing people in now that are experts in that, they can help me put in that structure and the systems from the ground up to make sure that this whole system works and operates as securely as possible. Yeah, I don't know. Did I answer that question? I kind of...
Absolutely. To summarize for our audience, you have a couple things you're thinking about and already putting in place. You recognize you don't know what you don't know, and you're working on bringing smart people who are going to help you answer those questions and implement those kinds of safeguards in the future. It's great because you're already thinking like a tech investor, right? We all have limitations as, in whatever our role is. We all don't know what we don't know, and tech investors are always working with their founders and their executive teams on who do we need to bring in to make sure we know what we need to know. I imagine our audience is very excited about what they're hearing right now. I imagine a lot of them are ready to hand you money right now. When are we all going to be able to start using IDify?
That's a great question. We are gearing up for our closed beta, closed testing system now. It's going to be a while as we slowly push out each one of these to the public. The first people that are going to be using it are going to be influencers and a lot of our partners, starting with a number of agencies that we're trying to partner with right off the bat. Ideally, we are going to be partnering, with SAG and a number of talent agencies off the bat to get the first versions of our service to those big influencers so that we can test a lot of these things, that we can make sure that the security is as great as possible. There's a lot of stuff that we're trying that's new, and it's important that we bug test that and get it perfect before we have our giant launch. So chances are you'll know about it when we're ready to release it, publicly. I'm sure I can give you, at any time, I'll love to show you kind of what some of the background is, and you can let you play with the image search and stuff like that. But yeah, ideally it's going to be first available to influencers, to actors, and then from there it'll roll out through an open beta that's by invite, and then released. Probably see it within a year.
All right. Well, I hope you will come back to us. You and Linda will come back to us and sit down, and we can break the news that it's out to the world. That's available to everyone else. So, but yeah, if you've got a toy to play with, I'd love to play with it when that becomes available. Sure. I'm curious if you've encountered any resistance from the rest of the tech world on what you're doing here, and how are you dealing with that?
I have not I really haven't gotten much resistance. I think the people that I've gotten the most resistance from are the people that we're trying to protect. Artists, AI, influencers that feel like their work's already getting replaced by AI. And to me, I don't ever want to, if somebody doesn't want an AI version of them online, I don't think they should have an AI version of them online. That's why we have the protection software that should remove that. However, some people are going to want AI, clones of themselves. They're going to want to be able to digitally generate, various content and make their life easier. Ideally, I want to have a system that protects personhood, that protects, humanity in place. And I think truly I haven't had much pushback on the concept of it.
But that's great to hear. I can see how that would be the case, because again, I mentioned it earlier, it's a really good balance of protection, but also choice to engage in opportunities as well. I know people personally who would love to never have to sit in front of a camera again, but be able to have video of their AI duplicate go out and do all the things they would normally do on a camera. I know people who would love to do that. So, and I think it's great that you're giving people a choice, not trying to limit people.
I think that's really important. And, the future is, it's work multipliers. You think about, I'm sure you spent a lot of time on your setup there, with your camera and your audio and all the lighting. It takes a lot of time to set that up, and it's a lot of work to sit down here and chat with me and have all this stuff set up, and it takes up a ton of space. Well, the work multiplier that we're moving into for the future is that all that can be generated. You do it once, you have that exact look, you can just replicate it and generate it over and over again. And then maybe you just, instead of you and me talking here with cameras, we're just on the phone talking to each other, and then everything else is generated. That might be the future, and that work multiplier that you see in the future.
Yeah, maybe I'll create an affiliate studio and collect all the data and push it over to you guys, and we'll all make money together.
For sure.
So let's take a break. I like to take a break in the middle of the show, play a little game with our guests. Are you up for a game?
I'm a little scared, but yeah, let's go.
All right. The name of this game is Rapid Response. I'm going to ask you a series of questions. I want you to respond with the first thing that comes to your mind. Doesn't need to be a one-word answer. Elaborate as much or as little as you'd like to. We're just looking for the first thing that comes to mind, okay?
Sounds great.
All right, ready to start? All right.
Whenever.
Ian Kellett, rapid response round. Your time begins now. Podcast recommendation.
Ooh, let's see here. For what's going on in the AI world, I like Matt Wolf. For like political, like economics, I like Peter Zeihan's, all his content that he puts out. Fact check. I'm a big believer in fact checking everything that you and all media that you get. So anything you fact check it. Let's see what else is good. I don't know. I'm probably gonna think of a whole bunch as soon as I'm done talking with you. I'm sure that there's a million things that I think of.
I'm sure. Peter Zeihan's great, though. He's a little bit of an alarmist, but he definitely knows the facts, and he definitely knows his stuff. I like him a lot as well.
I agree with that statement. He is an alarmist, and I think his content does well because of that. But I think that there's a lot of interesting factual information. I think he's a little behind the AI world. And I think that a lot of his predictions are based on what's happened in the past and is not taking into account the exponential acceleration of technology. And I think that's going to really affect the future.
Well, I'm sure he'll get there. He's been busy paying attention to the Middle East and Ukraine right now, but I'm sure he will get caught up at some point. And the other point I agree with you on: corroborate everything. Don't take anything at face value. If you're watching this or listening to this right now, don't take anything we're saying at face value. Go corroborate everything we're saying.
I think that's even more important going into the future, where if you just see something, that thing that you see might not be real. So fact checking that the things that you see are real things, important.
It's so funny because these are long before any of this came around. Social media, AI, all the tech we're dealing with now. These are lessons I learned as a young officer in the Air Force. Just from when someone in your squadron tells you something, go corroborate it before you go flying off the handle to deal with it. It may not even be true.
Yeah.
All right. What's another tech startup that you're excited about?
Let's see. How, like true startup, or like startup being like OpenAI that is technically a startup but is like the biggest business ever?
We leave a guest here to answer the questions.
So I am a big fan of what Anthropic is doing, and trying to back not just bring AI content out there, but making the AI that's behind everything, testing its values. In kind of putting my fingers deep in stuff, what I've noticed is Anthropic almost consistently checks the morals behind their AIs that they create, and I think there's an importance to that. It's not just about what's the best at math, what's the best at coding. Sometimes should be about what's the one that kind of thinks the most like us. You know what I mean?
Yeah, no, I've been a big believer when I first started getting into the tech world and the startup world, and looking at other companies, especially some of the AI stuff coming along, which was 10 years ago, which was hard to believe. But it always seemed to me with AI, for it to really be successful for humanity, we're going to need something like Asimov's laws of robotics from those old science fiction books. Or the AIs are just it's just gonna be chaos, right? The AIs are gonna be conflicting with each other, and again, it comes back to trust, right? How do we know what we can trust coming out of AI, right? And I think at the end of the day, that some kind of value system for AIs in general are what we're going to need to make this all be successful for humans. And then of course that will give us a lot of cool stories about how, just like the Asimov stories of how we thought this was a good idea, and it's interesting to watch how robots interpret the values that humans gave them, right?
Yeah, what is the robotic company? Is it Factor? Let me just look it up real fast. I think there's a lot of cool robotic startups that are hitting right now. I think where we're at for robotics is where like the GPT-4 moment of releasing, ChatGPT, really that's where we are for, humanoid robotics now. People aren't super paying attention to it, but it's going to be really big and really big soon.
Yeah, no, while you're looking that up, it's crazy. We have 4 or 5 robotics companies in Las Vegas that are doing really well and really about to start scaling really big. And a year ago, I had no idea any of that was going on in my own city.
The one that I was thinking was Figure Robotics. I believe that they have some humanoid robots that are sorting packages. They have some humanoid robots that are working in a BMW factory. But what's cool and what's interesting about them, that's the sexy information. The actually cool information is that they can go into an environment and without programming know and understand what's expected of them. And that's the gold nugget. That's the GPT, the transformer moment where we discovered, large language transformers. That's that moment, that new technology that allows a whole new world of something to happen.
That's fantastic. I don't know that company, but I'm going to have to check them out. So in addition to the robots, who is a person we should all be paying attention to?
I would, in the tech world, I really think that you should pay attention to Jensen Huang and where NVIDIA is putting their money. They dump their money into AI, knowing that the AI, that would be here. They are currently dumping their money into a lot of that back end for the robotics, wave, and they know that the robotics wave is happening. What all the sexy information, the stuff that gets all the headlines is, this year they released a supercomputer chip that is the single chip for the supercomputer. I think is the same speed as the fastest supercomputer in 2019 with a single chip, and I believe next year's chip is 65 times faster than that one. So you're talking about their ability to progress from a technological standpoint is impressive. But what people don't pay attention to is a lot of that money that they're making off the AI, they're putting into the future of robotics, and they're doing that because they know the next play, the play that people aren't talking about right now, is basically taking this neural network large language model and moving it into a real world model. And that world model for robots is going to be the thing that allows all sorts of robots in the future.
Fantastic. Yeah, I love that. Okay, you get a choice.
So I can go on rants. I'm sorry. This was supposed to be short.
This is why we're here. For anyone who's been watching the show for any length of time knows, the rapid response game is not rapid at all.
I do think that Sam Altman, you should pay attention to Sam Altman and Dario Amade's predictions. They're really good. What is Ray starts with a K. Kurzweil. Yeah, Ray Kurzweil. He has a lot of really great predictions. I think that a lot of that stuff's really interesting, and it's interesting to dive into some of those rabbit holes, because I do think that he's on the right track for the world of biohacking that's going to happen in the future, life hacking, life expectancy, escape velocity.
Yeah, well, we're all going to need to keep up with the robots that are all getting built, so we better start doing some biohacking, right?
Sorry, I know that I'll stop going on tangents.
No,
Try
this is why
hone back
we're
in.
here. This is why we're here. But I am curious, what is either your get pumped up song or your walk on music?
Get pumped up. I would have to go with like some type of EDM, dubstep, like Skrillex. Rumble by Skrillex would probably be a good pump up song. That's not the music that I listen to most of the time. I'm more of like I'm in the process of learning Japanese in my free time, so I've been listening to a lot of like alt Japanese music, which is really hard to find. So that's what I've been listening to most of the time. But yeah, pump up music, that's where I'd be.
All right, you would be surprised how many button down corporate types, like public speakers, authors we get in this show, who pick either an EDM song or a really hardcore hip hop song for that.
I mean, you said pump up, so that's where my mind goes. That's what does it for me.
No judgment here. We just want to hear about it so we can go find it and listen to it ourselves. Who is the biggest influence in your life? Or what if?
Is it cliche to say my family? I know that you're probably looking for figures in the public eye, but
I'm not looking for anything in particular. And you would also be surprised how many people come on here and say it's their family.
I think, something that's a weakness for me is I get too wrapped up in what I'm doing. You talked about the whole like working when you start a business, working nonstop. I get excited about stuff. I get interested in things, and I have a way of doing it all the time and becoming obsessed. And I think because that, whenever I can take a step back and spend time with my family, spend time with my kids, I think those are like those happy, precious moments that remind me what I do everything for. And I think, my weakness is that I forget to take the time to do that,
You would be surprised how common that answer is that it's my family, and I love when I get to take time to do things I love what I do for an occupation, but I love even more when I get to take time for my family. It is a very, very common answer. And I hope everybody who's aspiring to be in the tech world, or aspiring to be an entrepreneur, or aspiring to be a leader of something really, really important is paying attention to how important family is on this show.
Yeah, for sure.
What is a book everyone should read?
I think that everybody that cares to improve themselves should read a lot. I don't think there's a book. I think that if somebody is in high school or, young college, I think that taking the time to like read some of the classics, like How to Win Friends and Influence People, and like Dale Carnegie's, what is it? What is the...
He's got a bunch of other books. How to Win Friends and Influence People is the one most everyone knows, but the other ones are good too.
Man, I can't remember it. It's the one that kind of like started a lot of the Think and Grow Rich. That's the other one that I was thinking of.
Hill.
Yeah, sorry. That's the other one that that I think is a classic that almost started a lot of the thought strings that are in a lot of other business books. I think there's a lot of great books out there, though. I think The 4-Hour Workweek is a great book for optimizing your time and figuring out how to get rid of the things that are time wasters so that you're the best self, and the time that you're putting into working is the most efficient. I use a lot of that to make myself get more done in the the time that I spend working. I don't think that cutting down to 4 hours is the best way to treat it. But if you can use that to make yourself have the output of 5 people, then I think that is a big win. I think that, here's another good one. Influence. Influence by...
Cialdini.
Yeah. I think that one's a really good one for 2 reasons. One, learning how to influence other people, and learning when you're being influenced by other people. I think that everybody should take it with a grain of ethics, and if you're try not to manipulate people. But I do think that knowing how those tactics work is really important, and really help you in whatever you're doing. I think everybody should spend some time doing sales also. But that's besides the point.
Yeah, no, I think that's a really good point. I love what you're saying there is, the tactics are the tactics. It's up to us whether we decide whether we want to be white hat or black hat with them, right?
Yeah. I mean,
now, you are in Colorado, right?
I am in Colorado, yeah.
Which is a fantastic place to be in the summertime. I used to live there. I lived there for 5 years. I really loved it. I love Vegas more, but Colorado is great. What is a summertime Colorado activity you're looking forward to?
Well, number one, this is not what you're looking for, but it's true to me. I'm a huge gardener. I love to garden. It's my Zen getaway. I'm very into permaculture, but that's a whole nother topic. I think that's my Zen getaway thing that I do to release all the stress from work. And there's something special about seeing things grow and having a harvest. I got 2 giant bowls of cherries off my cherry tree yesterday. I have 16 fruit trees, so yeah. But summertime activities, I like adventure sports. I'm a climber. I love, whenever possible, whitewater rafting, kayaking. I wish I could do more. Yeah, hiking is fun too. I guess I kind of like the solo or just in a couple people things sports.
Colorado is great for all of that. I miss that. We have some same opportunities here in Vegas, but it's pretty hot here this time of year, so we tend to do that other times a year. What is your dream vacation spot?
I travel internationally quite a bit. I really want to go back to Japan. I think that's probably just because I have made a number of friends there. I really want to go to Greece also. Those are kind of my top 2 to return to.
Fantastic.
Also, I really love experiencing countries raw, and not knowing really where I'm going before I get there. My dad has a whole YouTube channel that the whole thing is living overseas. He travels nonstop. He goes from country to country. The way that we traveled when I was young, I lived and I grew up with my dad. We basically fly to some foreign country and show up on the ground and, find somewhere to sleep that night. And it was the most impromptu, ADHD, not planned traveling ever. And ever since then, there's something raw about that I really love, of just kind of showing up and not knowing what I'm doing and just finding my way into stuff. I can't tell you how many times that we arrived somewhere and we didn't know what the place that we're staying at looked like because we showed up at 11 p.m. And then you wake up in the morning and find out that, you're surrounded by all these beautiful cactuses or, yeah. Another tangent. It's the ADHD is kicking in.
That's okay. That's what all these questions are for, to help us get to know you a little bit. Last one. Favorite sports team or player?
Sports team, I would go with Avalanche. I like watching hockey. I think it's the one that gives me the most adrenaline. I don't know. I get into it the most. So I'd go with that. Yeah.
All right. Fantastic. Well, thanks for playing our game. You were a good sport. I do want to get back to talking about tech, though, and business. So this is not your first go around in a tech company. What did you learn from the previous ventures that help you today?
Yeah. So I've had a number of businesses, and all of them have been a little bit different. But I think that what I'm most conscious of now is, knowing what my burn rate is and trying to find the best leverage for the resources that you have when you're starting is really important. And I think I see two things. I see people that end up blowing money once they have it on, and they look at the list of things that they think they need, and they just pay for those things. And then I see people that are so frugal that they try to do everything themselves and don't pay for anything, and because of that they struggle to get anything done. I think finding the balance in that is really important. What was the question that you asked? Sorry, I lost it.
What you learned from previous ventures, and that's a great answer. That was something I struggled with as well, is keeping when I first started my business, is keeping such a tight hold on the cash that I was making myself crazy trying to do things myself and really not putting out quality for what I needed to do. And I think many business owners need to learn that balance, whether they come from one extreme or another.
Yeah.
So before you were in tech, you were a filmmaker. You come from a family of filmmakers. What did you learn from your time as a creative in filmmaking that helps you run a tech startup?
There's been no better boot camp for being a good leader than filmmaking. I think that constantly being on big sets where I have a large team of people that are trying to get something done, and each of them has their own little part, has been really good. And learning how to motivate them and learning how to get the best out of them, learning how to, that balance of knowing just enough of what each person is doing to detect when someone's not putting in the effort, detect when somebody is demotivated by something and is not putting in that effort, doesn't have that fire behind it. I think that also, like filmmaking, there's a lot of problems. I'm sure that you've encountered this. It's constant troubleshooting. And I think that constant problem solving has really helped me kind of as I progress. Also, I think that it's really important to be a constant learner and to believe in the capability of you to learn new skills. If you believe you can learn something, we have all the resources. This is 2025. You can get online. You can have, any of the AIs, ChatGPT, coach you on stuff and walk you through learning new skills. We basically have a personal teacher and video, content on how to do things. There's no reason why you can't learn anything anymore.
Yeah, it's all out there for you. It's funny you mentioned something that came to me about flexibility and having to troubleshoot things. And when I started podcasting, I tried to have very good plans going into everything, and I would get frustrated when it's not working the way I wanted to. I have to change the setup. I have to change something. And it made me relearn a lesson I learned in flight testing in the Air Force: is you've got to have a plan before you can deviate from it. And the lesson to that in the Air Force was, it's not enough to wing it. You have to have a plan before you go in. For me, the lesson coming out into podcasting was, you have to be able to deviate. You have to be willing to be flexible with the plan, because you never know what the reality is going to be on the set or wherever you're going when you get there. There's going to be some reality that changes your plan. And so now I get into these things, and especially like with podcast guests, we go into their places and we kind of had a plan of, okay, we're going to shoot it over here. We're going to sit here, and maybe there's not power over there. So we have to figure out some plan. And the guests get really kind of frustrated and apologetic. It's like, guys, this happens all the time. This happens every time we go somewhere. Don't worry about it. It's all going to be fine.
Absolutely. I think that there's a really good point that you had in there. There was a gem, and I want to hone into that a little bit more. I do think that the more that you plan, even if none of those plans actually happen, what the planning lets you identify what's important, what are the key things that you need to make sure you do the best. It helps you solidify those goals, and when that plan gets thrown out the window, you're still more prepared, even though than you would have been even if you didn't plan at all.
One of my favorite quotes, we actually used to put this when I worked in the special projects planning shop at Air Force Space Command. We gave out this gift that was like a pewter flagon, and on it we would put this quote from Dwight D. Eisenhower, General Dwight D. Eisenhower. If you don't know who that is, look him up. Also president later on. Go look him up. His quote was, "Plans are useless, but planning is invaluable," or something to that effect, right? It's not the plan, it's the doing of the planning that gets you prepared for something.
Absolutely. I totally believe in that.
Cool. So with all the advances in technology, we've talked about a lot of things that are coming up in the tech world. Where do you see the future of filmmaking and video going?
I'm going to take a step back and go more general. I think the future of everything is going in a direction where every single person's capabilities are going to be multiplied by more than is almost imaginable at the moment. The future is giant Hollywood films being created by teams of 10 people, not teams of hundreds of people. The future is those things that, the entire computer games being created by one person in their basement. The things that are difficult because they took huge amounts of manpower are going to become possible, and then they're going to become easy. When I'm looking at the future and when I'm looking at planning for the future, I think that, it's great to have like your CTO that has a lot of experience leading a lot of people. But the future is not that we're going to have hundreds of coders or thousands of coders dealing with problems. It's that we're going to need to be the person that's capable of adopting the new tech that's coming out each week and implementing it and keeping us on top of how fast things are iterating. Sam Altman just released a paper, I think, in this last week, talking about how we've already passed the event horizon. Event horizon in AI is kind of the moment where we can no longer perceive actually how fast AI is moving. Sam Altman says we passed that. I'm pretty sure. Audience, please fact check me. There's a lot of. I think the future is a place where everyone is going to have the ability to create and make the things that they want, the things that they believe in. What that's going to result in is infinite levels of competition and, competing for users, competing for interest, people's time. I think that we're looking at the end of SaaS, and the future is ultra personalization, ultra I don't know. To take it back to film, I'm gonna backtrack and give an example real fast. I grew up in film and TV. My father's a director in Colorado. He raised me and brought me to sets as he made stuff, and I've been around it my whole life. I was a TV host for a documentary channel as a kid. When I started, um, we our team would be 3 or 4 people, 5 people. We'd have these big several $100,000 cameras. The edit bays were $500,000, and because of that, there was very little competition, and it was really easy to get paid pretty well, because you couldn't just edit on any computer. You had to have a server rack. You had to have all these different tape decks. You had to have all this different stuff to get your Avid to actually be able to handle it. You couldn't just go out with your phone and try to film this stuff. You had to have these big cameras. Every single tape was $30 or something like that, which was a lot of money back then. Yeah, and because of that, the competition to be able to make those videos was really high. There was really, there wasn't very many people that could do it, is what I'm trying to say. Since then, now we're in a place that everybody with a phone can make a movie, and they can edit it on their phone. They can edit it on their computer. The things that you need to do it are basically everybody has. And because of that, the amount of video content that's being has just exponentially risen. We're now in a place that a middle schooler can have the resources to make a video that looks amazing and get it out to the world and get it out, and has the potential to get it to millions of people. That same difference is going to happen in a very short time to every single career. If you're a writer, and all of a sudden your writing capability might 10x, and your ability and the amount that you can produce might 100x, and all of a sudden when you could write maybe like a chapter in a month or something like that, maybe you'll end up writing 10 books, an entire series in a month. That's the future that we're headed into, and that's how AI is going to affect things. And what we're going to see is the ultra overabundance of basically everything. And that results in an ultra personalization, an ultra. Am I making sense?
Absolutely. Everybody get out there, go make stuff. That's what Ian's saying, right? Get out there, go make stuff. You're gonna make mistakes. You're gonna learn along the way. But right now, the world, someone in the world is looking for your stuff. Go make stuff.
For sure. And I think that's what's going to be easy in the future is, whatever idea you have, you're going to have the resources to make it.
Yeah, and if you're already making stuff, don't be stagnant and rest on your laurels. Use this technology to make more stuff, to make better stuff, to make more personalized stuff that your audience is really going to love.
Absolutely. For sure.
So do you have any advice for first-time tech founders, whether it's just getting started, whether it's getting traction, whether it's raising capital? Any advice for first-time founders who are trying to bring their idea into the world?
Vet your idea before you invest time and effort into it. Make sure that people are actually legitimately interested in your idea. I know that that's probably like really obvious, but it's not as obvious as you think that it is. And, what that might mean is, set up a website, pre-sell something, even before you have the product, sell it. And then if you have buyers, then that you have a good market. I think that's really important.
Yeah.
My second one is be infinitely passionate about whatever you're doing. The more passion you have, the more fun that you're having in whatever you're doing, the better you're going to do, the better you will perform. And, that I think that's a lot of the key to success.
Yeah. You would be surprised how often that, vet your idea advice doesn't get followed. When we work with tech startups here in Vegas, one of the first questions we ask them is, and sometimes they've been around for a couple of years. One of the first questions we ask them is, did you talk to 100 people yet? And you'd be surprised, like 95% of them haven't. And it's crazy because we're in Las Vegas. You can go talk to 100 people in an afternoon on the Strip.
Yeah.
If you have a great idea, some of them are probably ready to hand you cash on the spot to get it. It's because it's Vegas. But you'd be surprised, about 90 to 95% of them have not done that. And then just to tie it into the passion piece, yes, sometimes you have to find the passion within yourself. Sometimes it doesn't just well up naturally, right? Sometimes you have to find the passion about what you're doing to go talk to 100 people.
Yeah.
Not all of us are passionate about going and talking to 100 people. You have to find that. So go ahead.
You made me think of something. So I like I mentioned, I certainly have ADHD. Some people might think that's a weakness. I think it's a really good strength for me. What I've learned to do is gamify things. Anytime that if I have to talk to 100 people, if I have to pitch to 100 different people, I think of it of, how can I increase my skills to make my success rate right? How can I gain a little bit of XP beforehand? What are how can I make it feel like a game so that it feels like I'm winning, even if I'm getting rejected, if that makes sense? I think gamification can make things fun, even if they're not necessarily fun.
Yeah, absolutely. Go down to the Strip. Every time you talk to 10 people, take a shot.
Man, my pitches would get really bad really fast.
maybe that's not the best idea. Maybe go have some ice cream. But whatever the thing it is, gamify your thing and up your game, right? Develop those skills, keep learning. So we talked a little bit about where IDify is headed. What's coming up for the company, you, Linda, your team in 2025?
Yeah, I think the key is getting that testnet launch for our blockchain is really important for us. Once we have that out and stable, then a lot of these NFTs can really start getting created, and we're actually moving. That's the first big hurdle for us in getting a lot of the back end of this working. Our testnet is already there. It's working here on one of my. It used to be an edit computer. Now it's our cryptocurrency server. But yeah. Our blockchain is up and working, and it's already blazing fast. But getting that to where it's out to people and we're working through a lot of those problems is a big step for us. Huge step, a huge win when that happens. That allows us to open up our network. It allows us to allow a lot of these other features, because everything kind of ties back to that same blockchain. When you use our service, when you log in, when you upload your images, everything can get printed off as an NFT to that blockchain, with your NFT ID as the author of that stuff. That's kind of the foundation. So once that's launched, that's a big win for us. Really, what we're looking for and what this next year is about is, getting us to that public MVP and building the network and the people that are going to take us across the finish line. What we're looking for is those people for our board, those people that have interest in what we're trying to do, connections, and believe in why we're trying to do this. Because, really that's the most valuable thing is who are the people that can get us there. You know what I mean?
Absolutely. Well, we are all pulling for IDify and wishing you and the team there luck. We're big believers here. This has been so educational and really a lot of fun today. Where can everyone?
I've had a blast. Yeah.
Where can everyone find you so they can thank you for joining us?
Well, I certainly can share one of my email addresses for this. That would be great. Instagram, I'm Ian, or something like that. That's the only like social that I check. But emailing me is probably best if you want. And I'd love anybody that has interest in this, please reach out to me, and I'd love to connect with anyone.
Yeah, because right now there's not a website or anything like that. It's just reaching out to you directly if they're interested in more information, right?
Yeah, at the moment it's reaching out to us directly.
All right. Well, that sounds great. I want to thank everybody for watching and listening. If you found this conversation valuable, please go ahead and share it with someone else who can use it. Leave a comment. Don't forget to subscribe. And if you're on a podcast platform, please give us a 5-star review. It helps us get the word out there about all these great guests like Ian. We have a lot more of them coming your way. So go out there, do great things today. Onward and upward.